The last time the Chancellor was updating Parliament on the public finances, Labour did this.
Along Mao's little red book.
Next week, when George Osborne delivers his budget, Labour wants to hurl a bit more at him.
For him and his new relationship.
Today, the Shadow Chancellor made his boldest economic speech yet.
There's no shortcut to regaining fiscal credibility with the electorate. We have a long way to go before we can regain that trust that we lost after the global financial crisis of 2008, which happened under Labour's watch. There's no silver bullet.
No silver bullets, but some new iron rules instead. A Labour government would restrict day-to-day government spending, but borrow to spend on infrastructure, hoping that would stimulate spending elsewhere and so grow Britain's economy. Rule 1, that Labour will balance day-to-day spending over a rolling 5-year cycle. Rule 2, borrowing for investment. And Rule 3, to lower debt as a proportion of the economy over the course of a parliament. If all of this sounds a little more fiscally conservative than you're used to hearing from John McDonnell, then the last rule is meant to reassure his left-wing supporters. All of these rules can be thrown out in a crisis.
Mr Osborne wants to pay for all of public spending, both investment spending and day-to-day spending with tax receipts, whereas Labour only want to cover day-to-day spending, that's spending on public sector pay and on social security benefits with tax receipts, but would borrow to carry out the investment spending. So there's potentially a big difference that would allow Labour to borrow more and potentially tax less or spend more than what the Conservatives could do.
All in all, quite a move for a man who once jokingly included in his who's who list of hobbies the overthrow of capitalism. For some, a sign today that he is readying himself to run for leader when Jeremy Corbyn stands down. This speech does mark a shift in tone for John McDonnell, but it doesn't mark quite such a shift for the Labour Party. A lot of the language could have been used by Ed Miliband in the run-up to the last election, but that was an election that Labour lost, in part because the public didn't trust it on the economy. Today, Labour still remains quite a long way from getting the keys to this place. Respected economists support borrowing to invest in infrastructure. That is comfortable territory for the current Labour leadership. But having campaigned anti-austerity for years, new talk of balancing the books may not be quite so comfy.
Thank you so much to John McDonnell.
Allegra, Stratton, News at 10.